Your rank at the time?
At the time, I was Gary P. Voorhis, Fire Controlman 3rd Class. I was an Aegis computer technician and a CEC operator.
So paint a picture of the ship you were on and what your job was.
All right, so I was on the USS Princeton, CG-59. My job was to load crypto and take care of the CEC machinery and all the mainframe computers that run Aegis, the Aegis weapon system.
So when you had flight operations going on and you guys were in CEC, what does CEC stand for, and what did you see in your fellow workers there?
CEC's Cooperative Engagement Capability System. It uses a system just to converge all of our environmental data and our weapons data to be able to fire non-line of sight and to give us operational capabilities of all of our ships.
And what does CIC stand for, and what is that in your ship? What is that room?
Combat information, and it's basically where everything is. It's where all our big screens are, it's where all our consoles are, it's basically where everything is going. That's where all the triggers and the buttons are pushed.
And that week of November 10th, so around there, what was the first time you became aware of some unknown contacts?
Well, actually, it was I got a call from the spy guys, which there's an entire different Aegis tech that runs the actual spy radar itself, and they said that they've got a bunch of clutter and that they need to take the system down to calibrate the system to try to get rid of the clutter, because they got basically invisible tracks that are coming up that can't be there, and so they're basically insane tracks. And so they took the entire system down, they calibrated everything, brought it back up, and the only thing it did was make the tracks more clear. So then at that point, you know, they knew that they were actually tracking objects. And for well, it's 14 years ago, so it was between 3 and 5 days we tracked a bunch of unknown aircraft, and then at a certain point we did a F-18 interrogation of it. And I remember, because all week we've been looking at these things through the big eyes, we've got our own personal binoculars, we've been staring at these things flying around, and you know, I mean, it was, everybody was kind of, some people were excited, some people didn't know about it, because, I mean, a lot of the information was still classified, you know, so, I mean, we didn't, obviously we weren't telling the deck seamen about, the unknowns we're tracking, but, anybody that had clearance, anybody that had anything to do with the radars, we all knew. And so I was spending a lot of time in combat, and I was spending a lot of time, just kind of sitting in my computer room watching the data, and just making sure my recordings are going, because I was also responsible for all the recordings for CIC. So all the talkbacks, all the data going over all the consoles, all that runs through our system, because we were also testing what they called Q70 at the time, which was the new baseline of Aegis at the time. It was a hybrid system with an old system and a new system tied in together.
And so at this point, you guys are pretty sure that this isn't radar clutter or
yeah, we were 100% positive it was not, and we sat around just wondering why they're not doing something about it. Why are they not checking this out? Why aren't we why aren't we firing at them? Why aren't we, they're invading our airspace? So it's like, we were all kind of sitting there just in the dark about exactly what we were dealing with. And then the day they did the intercept, everybody with a clearance was sitting in somewhere where there was a link to the land, and we were all watching the actual interrogation as it was happening. And I remember it was just, it was absolutely amazing. We were seeing these things up close. It's one thing to see it from a heck of a distance through the big eyes, and the big eyes are pretty good binoculars, and you still couldn't quite grasp the shapes. So you knew that it was there, and that's why they were called Tic Tacs, but you couldn't grasp the shape or the design or the way that it looked. And in the video, you could see it. You know, you could see the way that they looked, to see the way that it moved, that it actually changed shapes, and you know, it was just the oddest thing. And you know, I was like, oh my God, you know, that's absolutely amazing. You know, I mean, and then, you know, seeing what it was doing, you know, it was going to, you know, over 25,000 feet and then coming down in, you know, no time, zero time at all. I mean, like, you could blink and it was already there. You know, I mean, it was so ridiculously fast. I mean, and the turns that it made and the way that they moved were, as far as I know, beyond the laws of physics. You know, so I mean, it was, to me, amazing that there was another layer of physics that we haven't even achieved yet, and that we, you know, for me, it was an open door to something new. So, you know, I was super excited about it, and then I went back to actually make a recording of it off the secret LAN, so on my secret computer, so that I could study it and rewatch it. And by the time I got back down to the computer that I watched it on, because we had it downloaded onto that hard drive to make a copy, it was already gone.
And you're talking about a part or a lengthier version of the one that we see now.
Yeah, it was a much clearer video. You could see the shape of the ship. You could see it, you know, moving. You could see, you know, and what's funny is, even when I think back to it, as indistinct as it was completely discernible when you were seeing it. So it was, and it moved, and I know it changed shape. But it's like, honestly, it's hard to remember.
Been a long time.
Yeah.
And before you saw that, because you said you saw it in real time, Commander Fravor didn't have the ATFLIR on his jet, and his wingmen, they were wings clean. Is there any, were you able to see any video from him, or did you hear his radio? I'm
not sure exactly what plane the video came from, only that I actually got to see the video as it was being recorded. And it was the same video that was released. So, I mean, so one of the planes had to have been rolling.
Yeah, in the second flight with the guy, Chad Underwood, he's the one that filmed it.
Okay.
So after Fravor came back, he told those guys, get a pod, and then they went up and filmed it.
Okay. So then I wasn't even aware of Favor's flight then.
And do you hear the radio too?
Anytime I was in combat, I popped in. Anytime it seemed like everybody was getting a little excited, I'd pop on and listen to what they were saying. And seeing the tracks, they would actually go faster than our pulses. So we were only the tracks, when you saw them, it would almost be like it was if you could actually see the track in real time, it would have been like a dotted line, because we weren't hitting it every time, because it was moving so quickly. But it was honestly amazing.
And you guys, I mean, you weren't the spy guy, so you weren't literally selecting one of the targets and then watching it, or did you see the playback?
No, we weren't. The OSs deal with the consoles, the operational specialists. They're the console runners. We're the grunt techs. You know, we get to see all the back wiring and the consoles, and we got access to CIC, and we got the clearances to be everywhere. So I mean, I was just a fly on the wall the whole time. So I mean, I guess I'm first-hand witness to everything. I mean, I was glued to those contacts. Every time there was a new one, I got excited. And
what about? So you guys decide, hey, let's go up on and look at these things through the big eyes. Mm-hmm. Describe what that day was like.
Well, I mean, there's actually they finally restricted it, but for a while we were just taking turns. I mean, there was just everybody that was actually interested in it was just up there, and believe it or not, there was a good chunk of people that just pretended like it was just another day.
And describe it, because I think that people that watch this don't know the structure of the boat and what those things. It's like a big mounted.
Yeah. So if you go and if you look at the CG-59, the USS Princeton, you look at the forward of the structure where where you actually see the glass for the bridge. So, and on both sides of the bridge, there's these platforms that jut out from left and right, and they have big eyes on them, which are big, huge telescopic binoculars. And you have to actually go up and around the bridge and get onto the bridge wing to actually look through them. So not everybody's going to go up there. And when you're out at sea, you kind of have to be a special kind of person to walk out on the bridge wing to look at them. And that's why after I had seen them a couple of times, I just kind of retired back to my own binoculars, which actually ended up being a clearer picture of them anyways.
So how far away, and describe what you saw through the binocular?
Through the binoculars, they basically just looked like little specks. Like you could tell, and it would just, they'd be there, then it wouldn't be, and then you'd see another one, and you don't know if it's another one or if it's just the same one, but it just disappeared and then came back to the same spot. You know, so I mean, it's kind of like seeing a bunch of gnats, but you know that they're tracks and that they're large objects. You know, they're not just a, you know, just a random pattern in the sky.
Did you try looking at them in the day or only at night?
I tried looking at them day and night. I couldn't see them at night. During the day, I could see the specks. I could see them moving around, but you couldn't make them out at night. At least I couldn't. So now with my binoculars, I was able to see a little bit clearer, but it's still just it's kind of like if you're trying to look at a cruise ship while it's coming right over the horizon. You know it's a cruise ship. You can't tell what kind, or you know it's a ship, but you don't know what kind it is. You can tell the general shape, but other than that, you couldn't tell anything real discernible about it. And it didn't matter how close they got.
So going back towards the end of this thing, where, you know, it was sort of the end of the sightings, you told me how you were part of a smash and crash team. And I wanted to like tie this into what PJ said, which was that these guys came and wanted chain of custody of the bricks and so on. So, and you happen to see the helicopter.
So I was sitting behind the smash and crash team when when we actually had a helicopter come on board, and I saw just plainclothes guys come on board, you know, just normal suits, and a couple, you know, it looks like a couple of officers, and then about maybe 15-20 minutes later, I get called down to combat to sign over all of the data recordings. And they wiped CEC too. They didn't, I don't know whether they remotely downloaded off CNC, but they wiped our CEC. We had to reload the whole thing. But you can ask PJ, it's a pain in the ass. I know you probably can't use that, but.
So go back, because I had to look it up and maybe just say what smash and crash, why you were there.
I was there because I was basically trying to be a part of the smash and crash team because you got extra money for it.
I think just fine.
Oh, so what they do is it's a bunch of sailors that volunteer to sit in the hangar in case the helicopter crashes. So if the helicopter crashes, then we rush out and we start putting out fires, trying to pull people out of the wreckage, that type of thing. So it's matter of fact, Jason could tell you a lot more about it. He was on it for a long time. You know, me, I did it for a little bit for an extra money. Just happened to be there that day. And but he could tell you a lot more about the actual crash smash team.
Great. So, and then, was it common for guys to come in and ask for this stuff, or?
No. My tapes generally, they just get flipped over and erased and then written over. The general information, because other than when we went to, if we did field testing, if we went out to the missile range, stuff like that, they'd come and take the tapes, but it was only for just basically environmental data, see how well the systems work and stuff like that. Like he said, you know, sometimes the companies that, you know, built these machines would come in and take the tapes just for, you know, checking out how their systems are working. And then the only other times that I ever had anybody come and take tapes was when we had a drone crash into our ship. We were testing the CWIS, and CWIS had chopped the chain on the drone, and it actually flew into our ship and crashed into our ship. So they wanted the tapes from that too. So, but it wasn't like this. They waited till we hit port, and then they came in. They just said, "Hey, we just need the tapes for, you know, the drone crash," and you know, we just handed them over to them. No chain of custody, no nothing. But in this situation, people came on board. There was a chain of custody. My chief came on, got me, and I had to sign chain of custody for them. And basically I just signed my name, and this person that picked it up, which I have no idea who they were, signed it, and they took them. And I was told that if there was any other tapes to delete them, even if they're brand new. So I went through all of our tapes and I deleted absolutely everything. So
Where do you think that helicopter originated from?
I would guess the NIMITZ. I mean, it would have to have come from the NIMITZ. I mean, I don't know flight operations, so I mean, generally, it'd have to come from the NIMITZ.
I'm sort of using speculation and conjecture to put these guys or wanting chain of custody and taking this data and this intercept in the Hawkeye, I'm putting those two together and saying, oh, they're related. It certainly seems that way to me, but is there like any other reason do you think they wanted that? Could it just been, are we putting these two things together and maybe they aren't related?
There's no way it couldn't be related. I mean, it's a very specific set of data about the same event. So, I mean.
How do we think, or how do you think personally, that these people got on board so fast after the incident? Would they have had to known before it even began and been sent out?
Well, like what he didn't know is we'd been tracking him for days. I mean, the chain of command knew. So, I mean, there was plenty of time for these guys to get on board. There was plenty of time for the guys to come and over to the carrier, even from the mainland. We weren't really that far. We were within flight distance of islands that you could have easily, they could have come out. So they had plenty of time to get out there. So if they knew we were going to do an intercept and they knew that there could be a possibility of us actually having this flight data, then they would have been ready. They would have already been there and ready to go to come get it.
And then just personally, outside of, any experience in combat and that knowledge, what do you think that those objects were?
Looking at an engineering and a physics standpoint, I didn't understand how they could do what they did. And the only thing I knew that they were a technology that was far beyond anything that I knew about, that I even know about to this day. I don't know where they're from, whether they're I don't really have a good working theory on it. And it could be just our government testing out pretty advanced tech on ourselves just to see whether or not it will work. It could have been an advanced drone that they were testing. It could have been some type of new system to do mock, show us mock sightings, or there's a lot of things that I've thought about it could be. So I mean, I just try to think about it rationally. I don't want to jump to any conclusions. I mean, it was just the only thing I can honestly say about it is it was just an amazing display of technology, and whether it was a system that we were developing or something beyond that, I'm not gonna speculate on exactly its origins or anything like that, but it was pretty amazing.
Kevin said he had some profound after effects of looking at it through the big eye. You also had the exact same exposure, so to speak. Have you noticed anything?
Not that I can really contribute to that. Honestly, my whole time on that last deployment, we had a lot of stuff happen. We had a lot of, I had a lot of stuff happen to me in the service too. So, there's a lot of things that just.
War.
Yeah, when you're responsible for literally thousands of people dying, it's, and a lot of things weigh on you. So it's just, you just try to, you don't even think about it. You just try to keep moving on. And I don't know if that particular event had any profound effect on me. I do know after the deployment and from the time I got out of the service, which was pretty soon after that event, I've been a much mellower person. I have a very clear and defined way I think. I do think more organized. You know, I do think more rationally. I've always been a rational thinker, but I was, I did get a bit colder, but then again, like I said, it could just be PTSD. You know, I don't know whether it was PTSD from other stuff in the service or whether it was just from that one event. But honestly, the event amazed me because I've been a skeptical believer my whole life in that there's advanced technology on this planet. You know, and it just, whether or not, you know, now I know that there's, you know, there's a whole nother layer of physics and, you know, engineering that just hasn't been touched yet. So
do you think that there's other shipmates and other military personnel that were there and so on that even have like a more amazing story because they saw it close up? Or
I would love to get one of the spy guys. You know, I mean, those guys worked directly on the system that tracked it. I mean, one of the few systems that apparently, I mean, from what I understand, some of the systems couldn't see them. You know, a spy was able to see them bright as day.
Can spy create like a three-dimension? I mean, that may be classified.
Well, no, spy doesn't do 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
Anything 3-dimensional would have been had to use multiple ships' data to
Right.
make a 3-dimensional picture, which is, you know, that's just a whole nother system.
Yeah, that you can't talk about. Right?
Never can, right?
Yeah. All right, I think I'm done. And you want to add anything I didn't ask you or that you wanted to talk about?
You know, I just would like to say that, you know, there was over 400 people on my ship and 5,000 people on the carrier. I mean, there's got to be some other people out there that, you know, can collaborate the story and, you know, fill us in where our memories failed us. I mean, this was 14 years ago. I mean, I could have gotten things wrong easy because we all remember things the way we want to remember them, you know. So because I want to believe in certain things, I'm going to remember it a certain way. You know, it's like, for me, it was an amazing situation where I saw some crazy advanced technology that made my day. You know, to other people, it was a religious experience, you know. So, I mean, everybody has a different outlook on what happened. So I would love to hear and collaborate with, you know, anybody else that decides that they wanted to come forward and, you know, discuss it and talk about it, because, I mean, it happened. There's no ifs, ands, or buts whether it happened or not. It did happen. So I'd love to know if there's anybody that does know more about it. So fill in our gaps.
So if people contact Anon at the NIMITZEncounters.com, I can put them in touch with you guys?
Yeah, I'll talk to anybody that wants to talk. You know, even if they want to be completely off the record and not talk to anybody that's making a film or trying to do an interview, if they just need to talk to somebody about it, you know. Because I know, like, people like Kevin, it really deeply affected them. You know, I mean, literally affected every aspect of their life. Yeah, so there's got to be other people that are dealing with that same thing. So if they can, you know, if they need it, they can reach out.